It is very common, among both Christian believers and critics of Christianity, to read the gospel stories as if they were written to report historical facts in the modern sense. And this creates an entire landscape of confusion. Believers often feel pressured to defend details that simply cannot be defended historically, while critics use those same details to argue that the Gospels are absurd or unreliable. Both sides end up trapped in a misunderstanding of genre, reading a theological narrative as if it were a precise eyewitness chronicle, and once that expectation is in place, countless questions arise. Did this really happen? Why does no one else mention it? Why does Yeshua seem to act in ways that contradict Torah? Why does nature behave so selectively? But these questions reveal something important. The Gospels are not trying to function as modern historical reportage. They are shaped within a Jewish storytelling tradition where symbolic imagery, scriptural echoes, and theological meaning are more central than strict chronology. Like Midrash, they aim less to describe what happened and more to reveal what it means. And when we read them in that light, many troubling passages suddenly make far more sense, not as biography but as interpreted history, as theological reflection. Take Matthew's story of the graves opening when Yeshua dies. The temple curtain tears, the earth shakes, rocks split, and then this mysterious line. Many holy ones who had died rose and appeared to people in Jerusalem. What stands out is how few details Matthew provides. No reactions from the public, no names, no continuation of the story. None of the other Gospels mention it, nor do early Christian writers build doctrinal arguments from it. This is not written as an eyewitness report. It is written as Midrash, a theological composition that points back to Ezekiel 37. There the prophet sees a valley of dry bones. God opens graves and brings life where everything is dead. Ezekiel himself explains the vision. It is about Israel's national restoration, not about anatomy. It is a hope-filled metaphor, not a literal resurrection scene. So when Matthew links Yeshua's death to open graves, he is making a theological claim. The death of the righteous one marks the beginning of Israel's deep renewal. The holy ones rising can be understood as symbolic representatives of all who waited for God's justice. Matthew is echoing Ezekiel in compressed form. He expects readers to understand that open graves mean Israel is being restored, not Jerusalem momentarily filled with awakened corpses. The same interpretive pattern appears in the story of Yeshua driving demons into a herd of pigs. Taken literally, the story creates two major problems. Historically, a huge herd of pigs in a Jewish region is unlikely, and no other source mentions any such event. Ethically, it is even more difficult. Why would Yeshua allow a massive act of animal cruelty? Torah explicitly forbids causing needless suffering to animals. Jewish tradition takes Tsar Ba'alei Chayim, the prohibition of animal cruelty, very seriously. A Jewish teacher allowing 2,000 animals to panic and drown contradicts both Torah and Yeshua's own teachings on compassion. When a text appears to portray Yeshua acting unethically, it signals that the story is not meant as literal reportage. And here, the deeper symbolic reading fits perfectly. When the demons say, "My name is Legion, for we are many," a Jewish audience under Roman occupation would immediately hear the political resonance. A legion is not just a spiritual term, it is a Roman military unit. The possessed man living among the tombs, isolated and tormented, becomes a symbol of the people themselves, living in the shadow of death, bound by a foreign power. Driving the legion into a herd of unclean animals and having them rush into the sea would evoke powerful biblical memories. In Jewish symbolism, pigs represent impurity and chaos. The sea often represents the primordial forces God restrains. And a destructive power drowning in water instantly recalls the Exodus story, where Pharaoh's army is swallowed by the sea. The gospel scene is therefore a miniature Exodus. A bound man, Israel, is set free. The oppressive force, the legion, is cast out and destroyed, and the chaos waters reclaim the powers of death. The pigs are not individual animals whose welfare is under discussion. They are symbols that complete a theological image. The story is not aiming to describe zoological events, but to show that in Yeshua's presence, the forces that enslave Israel lose their grip. When we read the Gospels as Jewish Midrash, interpretive storytelling woven through Scripture, many difficulties dissolve. This does not mean the Gospels lack historical grounding. The historical Yeshua is there. But the presentation of his life and deeds is shaped by biblical imagery, prophetic symbolism, and theological vision, more than by the concerns of modern historical method. The stories of the opened graves and the drowned pigs invite us to shift questions. Instead of asking, "Did this happen exactly like this?" we ask, "What is this text trying to say? What scriptural echoes does it draw upon? How did the earliest believers understand Yeshua through these images?" Seen this way, the Gospels become richer, not poorer. They reveal themselves not as stiff historical reports, but as living theology, continuing the prophetic tradition of Israel, where God speaks in symbols, visions, contrasts, and dramatic scenes. And rather than weakening their credibility, this helps us see their true purpose, not to convince modern readers of factual precision, but to show how Yeshua was understood as part of God's great work of restoring Israel. Thank you for listening to this reflection from the Yeshua community. Peace and blessings. Until next time.